when you now start seeing the politicization of the military, deliberately, when you have what looks like a deliberate end run around not just a concept, but a law that's been around for a long time, posse comitatus, that is a genuine effort to weaken how we have understood.
For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be.
Donald Trump continues to make headlines with turmoil as his co-star in a nation where politics frequently feels like a reality show that exaggerates its welcome. The spectacle changes from bewilderment to comedic gold when Barack and Michelle Obama enter the arena. Michelle gives elegance honed by irony, transforming every exaggeration and gaffe into lyrical humiliation, while Barack delivers cool precision, cutting through Trump's mistakes with the ease of a man immune to nonsense.
Extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extreme.
Taking away our freedom to control our bodies, the freedom to become a mother through IVF like I did, those things are not going to improve the health outcomes of our wives, mothers, and daughters. Shutting down the Department of Education, banning our books, none of that.
As a professor judging a collaborative project gone horribly wrong, Barack begins by analyzing Trump's leadership. When he examines the policy decisions, he sees a patchwork of paradoxes sewn together by ego rather than a plan. Every issue has a promise that defies reason, and every promise has an easy-to-blame villain when it fails. Barack doesn't even need to speak louder. The humor is self-evident. He sees Trump's administration as the result of a man mistaking praise for achievement and attention for success.
I'd sent in the National Guard into Texas and just said, you know what, a lot of problems in Dallas. You know, a lot of crime there. And I don't care what Governor Abbott says. I'm going to kind of take over law enforcement because I think things are out of control. It is my...
Michelle jumps in with her signature composure, which is devastating even at low level. She analyzes Trump's fixation on appearance and uses it to create creative parody. She compares it to seeing the construction of a mirror empire. Every hallway echoes the same self-praise and every wall is reflected. Insults are not necessary for her. She employs irony, a president who forgets to be understood because he is so focused on being seen. Her perspective makes Trump's leadership appear less like governance and more like unscripted performance art.
Believe me, if Donald Trump is president again, at some point or another, that ugliness will touch all of our lives. And it will not matter what you look like, how you worship, who you love, or how you vote. If you don't make 6 or 8 or 12 figures, if you're not famous, if you criticize or disagree with him in any way, if he doesn't view you as his equal or relevant to his ambitions, I promise you, he will not think about you when he gets into the Oval Office.
Barack looks more closely and finds amusement in the contradiction that characterizes Trump's handling of the facts. He likens it to the performance of a magician. However, the audience continues to cheer incredulously even though the trick never works. Every assertion distorts reality a bit more. Each denial occurs more quickly than memory, and truth eventually turns into whatever suits the moment. Barack chuckles at the ridiculousness of a president who views accuracy as a subscription that can be renewed only when it suits him.
The reason some people think, wow, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good, because it was my economy. We had 75 straight months of job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me.
By highlighting the contradiction of a leader who campaigns on strength but feeds on division, Michelle adopts a cultural perspective. She can see it well. A presidency that prioritized performance over advancement. Headlines over harmony. The inconsistencies make her laugh. A leader who gathers adversaries like trophies while promising unity. Michelle sees the humor as exposing rather than exaggeration. Trump's definition of greatness shrinks the more he talks about it.
Hope you'll forgive me if I'm a little frustrated that some of us are choosing to ignore Donald Trump's gross incompetence while asking Kamala to dazzle us at every turn. I hope that you'll forgive me if I'm a little angry that we are indifferent to his erratic behavior, his obvious mental decline, his history as a convicted felon, a known slumlord, a predator found liable for sex.
Barack adds his trademark sardonic humor and expresses amazement at Trump's capacity to turn failure into achievement. Every failure turns into a spin. Every dispute is a sign of defiance. It is the most ridiculous example of political alchemy, transforming chaos into boastful rights. In the same way that experts see volcanoes from a distance, Barack finds it intriguing. Fascinating, yet approaching too closely might be risky. He quips that there is just one rule that best describes Trump's management style. A good story should never be ruined by the outcome. Michelle concentrates on Trump's theatrical tendencies, including his dramatic entrances and exits, and his incessant demand for an audience. She says Trump's legacy could be the first to be driven only by self-aggrandizement and incredulity. As though studying a novel form of speech, Barack examines Trump's relationship with the facts. It is completely disconnected from reality and combines elements of imagination and improvisation. He sees Trump's speeches being studied by students in the future as communication lessons rather than sources of inspiration. His words seem to have been put together by an unconvening committee. Barack has a surgical sense of humor. He analyzes the man's insanity rather than making fun of him.
And so when I hear not just our current president, but his aides, who have a history of calling political opponents vermin, enemies, who need to be targeted, that speaks to a broader problem.
Trump's ego is also not suppressed by Michelle. She compares it to a hot air balloon that needs to be praised constantly in order to stay afloat. Every compliment serves as fuel. Every critique is a secret. She sees him surrounded by mirrors, seeking approval from his own reflection. Michelle sees it as fun rather than rage. She sees the humor in the paradoxes and the ridiculousness in the self-importance. She reminds us that being a leader is about being consistent, not about being noticed. Barack then discusses Trump's crisis management. He sees it as a tragic comedy of mistakes, where spontaneity and urgency collide and clarity is consistently lost. Michelle, who finds Trump's ability to transform blame into policy amusing, adopts the moral stance. She refers to it as finger-pointing, a skill that has been honed over years of deflection. Every issue has a foe, and every failure has a victim. It's both heartbreaking and humorous to her. A country with a screenplay that varies according on who is present, much like a soap opera. She doesn't voice her disapproval loudly. Sharp enough to extract blood, she delivers it with grace.
Demonizing our children for being who they are and loving who they love. Look, that doesn't make anybody's life better. Instead, it only makes us small. And let me tell you this, going small is never the answer. Going small is the opposite of what we teach our kids. Going small is petty, it's unhealthy, and quite frankly, it's unprecedented.
Barack laughs at Trump's tendency to treat politics like a TV show, capitalizing on his love of spectacle. He envisions commercial interruptions during cabinet meetings and Clifford-style policy pronouncements. Trump is just getting started, but the audience is worn out. There's no need to exaggerate the ridiculousness in Barack's universe. It's cinematic already. She compares it to attending a talent show when the contestants judge the show. Self-satisfaction is the only standard. Adoration, but no standards. Michelle's wit hits the mark. She creates a symphony of irony out of his uncertainty. Barack enters the realm of economics, transforming Trump's assertions of wealth into fodder for parody. He envisions markets responding to tweets, economists setting alarms for drama, and graphs resembling roller coasters. He joked that under Trump, economics has turned sentimental and that statements rather than facts now influence markets. When volatility is the brand, the concept of stability is rendered absurd. The ridiculous void between impact and picture is where Barack's humor flourishes.
We're at an inflection point in the sense that we always have to fight for our democracy. And we have to fight for those values that have made this country the envy of the world. And I often say democracy is not self-executing. It depends on us as citizens, regardless of our political.
Michelle provides her perspective on the environmental issue, laughing at Trump's treatment of the Earth. More stand-up routine, less stewardship. She sees him dismissing climate reports with bluster rather than facts, treating them like negative Yelp reviews. Her sarcasm is incisive yet elegant, revealing the emptiness of arrogance in the face of indisputable truth. She asserts that the planet does not bargain with ego. Returning to communication, Barack expresses his amazement at Trump's ability to transform any utterance into a performance. Every pause serves as a signal for applause, and every phrase has rhythm. He doesn't deliver speeches. He is leading his own symphony. The irony of a man who talks all the time but says very little makes Barack giggle. Exaggeration is not the source of the humor. Rather, it is fatigue and the never-ending cycle of noise masquerading as leadership. She sees it as evidence that chaos isn't charisma and volume isn't vision. Barack then turns to Trump's management of public trust, giggling at how openness may be compromised at the whim of expediency. He perceives a president who views responsibility as a burden rather than an obligation. Every inquiry is brushed aside as offensive. All criticisms are conspiracies. This is transformed into satire by Barack. How can a man who is allergic to scrutiny manage the most liberated nation on the planet? It's a Shakespearean fusion of drama and denial, tragic comic perfection.
I'm increasingly concerned about the rising wave of authoritarianism sweeping the globe. We're seeing politicians target civil society, undermine freedom of the press, weaponize the justice system. And no one is being spared. Even countries that thought they were immune from wholesale assaults on democracy now understand we're all part of this struggle.
Michelle makes fun of Trump's fixation on numbers, crowds, accomplishments, and fictitious wins. She observes that every figure appears inflated and that every comparison is overstated. It's as though reality isn't magnificent enough. The crowd keeps purchasing tickets to watch what happens next because to her, it's pure theater. Beyond the humor lies disbelief that this is what leadership has become, she says with a laugh that has substance. Barack examines how Trump views the truth as a type of performance art. He claims that when confidence is this loud, facts don't matter. Every correction turns into an assault. Every explanation is a chance for spin. Trump's confusion of decisiveness and domination makes her laugh. Every choice seems like a risk. Every utterance is an act of rebellion. Leadership seems to be a volume competition. Michelle's irony is profound. He grows less persuasive the louder he gets. She laughs and reminds Power that he doesn't have to scream. It is self-explanatory.
California, the whole nation is counting on you. Democracy is on the ballot November 4th. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. With Prop 50, you can stop Republicans in their tracks. Prop 50 puts our elections back on a level playing field, preserves independent redistricting over the long term.
Barack moves on to the topic of legacy, making a joke that Trump's will be evaluated on popular subjects rather than accomplishments. He envisions his presidency being studied by future generations. People who study viral memes are amused, perplexed, but never motivated. By removing the appearance of greatness and revealing the hollowness behind the cheers, Barack's humor is surgical. In the end, the joke writes itself. Michelle delves deeply into Trump's never-ending need for approval. Like a teenager checking likes, she imagines him browsing through approval ratings. Every dip is a crisis and every number counts. It's funny and depressing to her. The notion of the world's most powerful guy in need of continual affirmation. She watches rather than attacks, and the punchline is her observation alone. Trump's idea of allegiance seems to change every day, which makes Barack laugh. Exaggeration is not necessary for him. It's crazy enough in reality. Michelle calls Trump's communication style political jazz and laughs at it. Just improvisation and ego, no framework. Every topic, every sentence, and every justification is a solo. Few people can perfect the skill of saying everything without meaning anything, and she is in awe of his ability to do so. She is unable to know whether to sigh or cheer because it is both stunning and disastrous.
There's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It has been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually been getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala. There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with
Barack concentrates on Trump's exploitation of fear. He quips that panic isn't an issue under Trump, it's a policy. Every problem is magnified until hyperbole overpowers reason. It's government by indignation, leadership by adrenaline. Barack maintains his composure, which heightens the humor of the contrast. Barack shrugs where Trump yells. In contrast to Trump, Barack deconstructs. The humor is self-evident. Michelle adopts Trump's perpetual victimization. It's a story that is so exhausting that it almost seems impressive. She makes a joke about how Trump could buy back his own controversies if grievances were money. Her subtlety betrays her sarcasm. She reveals his insecurity rather than making fun of it. Barack assumes the role of analyst once more and finds Trump's disrespect for procedure amusing. He sees the White House as a startup that thrives on chaos and confidence rather than as an established institution. For her, the true amusement lies not in his pranks, but rather in their effectiveness. He is evidence that the loudest voice, even if it says nothing, frequently prevails in a time where spectacle is king. Barack and Michelle Obama don't only make fun of Trump together. They use intelligence to redefine scorn. They transform sarcasm into insight and hyperbole into teaching. Each line lands precisely. Every chuckle serves as a revelation, and every joke contains truth. Trump's administration turns into their ridiculous canvas, which is both brilliant and incredulous. The ego, the inconsistencies, and the disarray all turned into the purest kind of political humor. And nothing remains to destroy after they're finished. Where the noise once was, there is now only stillness.